welcome to the second edition of Inside Government for the spring 2019 semester here at Cayuga Community College. This is a show that is broadcast on ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, as well as Spectrum and Verizon Fios. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. Earlier this year, Cayuga County received a new sheriff, or got a new sheriff. He is Brian Skank, who took over a department of about 200 people, 150 full-time people, about 50 part-time. He took over for longtime Sheriff David Gould, who had been somewhat of an institution there over the last 12 years. A Republican, he quickly announced when Sheriff Gould decided not to seek re-election, and he did not have an opponent back in November. He was one of those low-key elections that we didn't have many of them last fall. We've asked the sheriff on to introduce him to the community for those who don't know him. He's been very active in this community for more than 2 decades. But we want to welcome you and congratulate you on your new job.
Thank you, Guy. Appreciate it.
So how's the first 60 days? We're roughly at 60 days. How's the first 60 days?
It's been busy, very busy with the transition, but it's been going great. I'm enjoying it.
So you have been with the department how long?
I've been with the department 21 years. I came on in 1997. I'm actually working on my 22nd year.
And you were a road deputy?
I came on originally with the Road Patrol Division, and I transitioned into the Criminal Investigations Division, where I spent the majority of my career, about 15 years. Became the Detective Lieutenant, overseeing the Criminal Investigations Division for a number of years, and then made the decision to run for sheriff when Sheriff Gould decided not to take on another term, and the rest is history.
So why did you decide you wanted to be sheriff?
I've been with the department obviously a long time, and I have a lot of pride in the department. I felt that I could continue to move us in a similar direction that Sheriff Gould had moved us in, and it was very important to me to move into that position to lead us into a direction where we continued to be an agency that provides support and service to the community, not just a law enforcement agency, but an agency that serves the public. So it was important for me to move into that leadership role and continue doing what I could to make sure that we're moving in that same direction.
And I was trying to look back and go through the last 40 or 50 years of sheriffs. I think you're one of the youngest, if you're not the youngest.
I am one of the younger sheriffs. I haven't actually researched that to see if I am the youngest, but I think I probably am in the running for that.
Well, and we'll get into a little bit of difference between what is today and what was 40 years ago, but did you always want to be sheriff?
It's not something that I would say when I first came on the job I aspired to do, but I did know over the last few years that it's something that I wanted to seek. I wanted to seek out that position, and especially if Sheriff Gould decided not to run, I wanted to go for it, and luckily I had my opportunity.
Did you always want to be in law enforcement?
I did. That's something that I always had an interest in.
And so your dad, who I know from another life, was a town supervisor for many, many years?
He was in the town of Aurelius, and a mechanic, worked on farm equipment, and I learned a lot from my father, and as far as my work ethic goes, I grew up in that environment. I had to learn how to work hard, and he taught me those skills, and I think that that's been very important through my law enforcement career too, to have that background.
So where did you go to school?
I actually did not go to college right out of high school, but I ended up obtaining my bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Columbia Southern University.
I'm sorry, I should have said, where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school in Union Springs. I graduated.
So we have
Union
all
Springs.
these Southern Cayuga County guys who become sheriff, it looks like.
We do, and the last 3 sheriffs were actual graduates of the Union Springs High School, so I'm not sure if there's a connection there or just a coincidence.
Got you. Local, do you have a family?
I do. My wife Dee Dee, and I do have my son John and daughter Jen. We do live here in Cayuga County.
So your son is how old?
He's 19 and currently in college, and my daughter is 17.
And he was an alum. He's an alum of Cayuga.
He is.
Okay.
He received his 2-year degree here.
And your wife Dee Dee, many of us knew she was at Cayuga Centers, and she works in Auburn as well.
She does.
Okay. So she was very involved in the not-for. I know she's just transferred to another job, but she was for many years in the not-for-profit sector. Have you seemed to kind of have gravitated to some of that as well, as working with not-for-profits? In fact, our first interaction was you helped Options for Independence install car seats on a very cold, did I say it was cold?
Very cold. I do remember that. Child Passenger Safety Program. That's something that I was very active with many years ago when I was a road patrol deputy. That's going back quite a long time, guys. It's been a long time, but we did work together on that initiative.
So have you always been involved in not-for-profits and their work?
I've always enjoyed being involved with the community, and the not-for-profit world is something that I have been active with, because I like to serve not just as a law enforcement officer, but I like to go above and beyond and serve our community in other roles too. So that's taken me to the not-for-profit world.
And do you serve on any boards now?
I do currently. I serve on the HEAL board, the Heroin Epidemic Action League, and I'm also on the board with Nick's Ride. I just came on with them, and I'm serving on the Cayuga Seneca Action Agency board. I just came on the board with them as well.
So this goes in two different split-offs. Your predecessor was known for his not-for-profit service.
He was.
I believe he served on close to 24 boards.
He did, and doing this job, I'm not quite sure how he was able to do that, but he was very active.
So where I was going with this is you will still serve on boards, but you may not get to that level at this particular stage?
I will. I think it's important to serve and be involved with the community, but I'm going to take a more active role in the day-to-day operations in our agency.
So I asked that question because if you looked at the Sheriff's Department, this is not criticism, 20 or 30 years ago or more, you wouldn't necessarily see sheriffs on not-for-profit boards for the most part. You'd see them involved maybe in a Little League board or, social groups, church board or not. It has looked like you and your predecessor have tended to gravitate, and you've encouraged your deputies to do so as well. Am I correct on that?
We have, and I think law enforcement in general has made that shift. I think we've all recognized, not just here in Cayuga County, but throughout the state and throughout the nation, that we need to be more actively involved with our community to serve the public in the roles that we have as law enforcement officers. I think it's important, and I'm glad to see that most law enforcement agencies have seen the value in serving not just on boards, but serving their community and working to bring community policing to their agencies.
So I know, for example, in the past you've had jailers, and I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but people who work in your jail on the homeless task force. Are you encouraging your staff, your line staff, to serve on not-for-profit boards?
Absolutely, and to get involved with their community and be involved in those processes. I support that 100%, just like Sheriff Gould did prior to me.
You said there were roughly 200 people, before we started, about 200 people working for the department. How is that broken out?
We have multiple divisions. We have just under 100 full-time staff members that work in our custody division, which is our jail. We have 2 full-time people that work in our civil division that deal with civil process and that type of thing. We have approximately 35 staff members that serve on our road patrol division, full-time staff members. And then we have a number of part-time staff members that serve with our navigation division. That would be our boats that patrol our waterways in the summertime. And we also have part-time people that serve as court security officers here at our county court and our city court offices in Auburn.
Are they mainly the 50 that are part-time?
They are.
They in the navigation?
They are. And we have approximately 10 people that are providing security in our county office building. So they are part-time as well.
And they all report to your office?
They do.
So let's break the 2 major pieces up. So you have about 35 in road patrol. How many does that mean deputies on the road?
We have approximately 25 road patrol deputies, and then we have 6 individuals in that division that are part of our criminal investigations division. So they...
And that's what you headed up at?
That's correct. Okay. That's where I spent the majority of my career, but they investigate primarily felony level crimes. They are not in uniform daily. They're plainclothes detectives, and then some administrative staff beyond that.
And of those deputies that you have on a given day or a given night, how many people do you have on road patrol?
Depending on the shift, from midnight till 8 o'clock in the morning, we'll have 2 to 3 people on the road.
Spread throughout Cayuga County? That's
throughout Cayuga County. After midnight, we do split the county with the New York State Police. So typically, we will either patrol the southern half or the northern half of the county, and the state police will patrol the other half. So we'll have 2 to 3 deputies that might be in one half of the county from midnight to 8. From 8 to 4 p.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., our day shift will have typically 3 to 5 deputies on the road. And during the day, we have a number of detectives on duty and administrative staff that are at the public safety building as well. And then from 4 p.m. till midnight, we'll have approximately 3 to 5 deputies on the road during that period of time as well.
So still stretched thin for a county of this size.
Very thin, very large county. It's a lot of ground to cover, so it can be difficult.
I know the the Auburn Police Department, there was a story maybe a week ago, 10 days ago, they have been having trouble retaining people. They have a 20-year, I think it's a 20-year retirement system, so some of them, it's financially advantageous for them to leave. Do you have the same problems of recruitment? I know New York State troopers get paid a little bit larger sum than your starting deputies.
They do. We've been seeing the same problems that the Auburn City PD has had, and that's a trend that we're seeing nationally, not just here locally or at the state level, but nationally. It's getting harder and harder to get people to take our entry-level exams. I found over the years, in recent years, it's hard to find qualified candidates from those exams after we've given the tests, and it is hard to keep some of those members that come to work. They are always looking, it seems like the new generation's always looking for new opportunities, but we do have some new staff members that just came on, some new deputies that are out there on the road, and some new people in our custody division that I feel they're going to be with us for a long time. I think they're going to make careers out of it here locally, but this isn't the recruiting problem is not something that's unique to Auburn. We're seeing that as well as many other agencies.
And is it because the world of police work has changed dramatically in the last 20 years with everything from anybody can video you, many officers are wearing body cams. Does your department?
We do not currently have body cameras. That's something that I'm looking at and exploring, but we do not currently have those now.
But now it's a much more visual, almost everything you do is looked at.
Absolutely. Everybody has a cell phone that can record. So
does that deter people from, I guess where I was going, because I've heard this in other departments that it's tougher to recruit because it's a much different job with the public than it was in, let's just say, 2000 or 1990.
I think, from my perspective, I think that a lot of younger people that might have otherwise taken our exam or pursued this field has seen negative stories on the media. I think that the police profession hasn't necessarily been portrayed in a positive light in recent years, but I think it's an awesome job. I think for people coming on the job, it's going to be an awesome career for them. So I wish that more people understood exactly what the job's all about. If you're the type of individual that likes to serve your community and wants to do something different every day, have an exciting career, I would highly recommend this field. But to the average person that's out there seeing news stories about what's going on in the world of law enforcement, for every negative story you see on the news today, I know there's thousands of positive interactions that the police have had with people. And
well, I was going to say the opposite question is also out there. It's also become, I would perceive, maybe it's because it's reported different, it's a much more dangerous job with mass shootings, with police officers and sheriff's deputies being targets, where you would never have thought that, or at least it never got to reach the media attention that now almost every shooting.
I think it gets much more media attention now because I think from my perspective it was just as dangerous 20 years ago. I don't know, it's dangerous still today, I believe, just as dangerous. But I think with the world of social media and the instant news information that we can get on our phones or our different types of technology, we find out about a mass shooting just seconds or minutes after it happens, and those stories they receive so much more coverage than they did 20 years ago. So I think there is a different perception, but I don't really necessarily think the job has changed all that much during that time frame.
I just look at what happened in Houston a couple of weeks ago, where I don't know if those were civil division sheriff's deputies serving somebody, and there's a shooting there. I guess would not have thought of that.
Sure, and I think those stories, not so many years ago, may not have made it onto the news or to people through media outlets necessarily a few short years ago, but now with technology we see all of those stories every day.
And a lot of that can be said about, we have more people reporting child abuse that we most likely did because there's been more attention to it.
Absolutely.
So that's one side of your department. You also have your custody division. How many people work there again?
Just under 100, 97 people in our custody division.
So how many prisoners? I'm using, I don't know if that's the word you use, but how many prisoners do you house?
Today we have about 171 inmates in our jail this morning.
And how many can you house?
214 is our maximum.
And they're not all local guys and gals?
No, they're not. We do board in inmates for other municipalities, both other local municipalities that need more space. We will board in inmates for them. It generates revenue for us by boarding in those inmates, and we also house federal inmates. The U.S. Marshals utilize our facility to house federal inmates, and I believe we have approximately 40 of those inmates in our jail right now.
And how long do those federal inmates usually stay?
It varies. It can vary anywhere from a short stay to a long stay, depending on how their cases are working through the system.
When you say a long stay, you're not talking about years, are you talking about months or?
Typically months as they're
Okay.
working through their case.
And you're a little short of being full, but are you often full?
Knock on wood, in recent years we haven't been. We've had the space to bring in the boarders, and which is good for us.
I'm sorry. What I'm saying is full for the 200 plus beds that you have.
No, we even with the board-ins, we haven't been full,
Okay.
which is good.
So you mentioned you have the water patrols as well in summer.
We do.
How many boats do you have?
We have 4 boats, but we routinely use 3 of them. We do have one spare boat there, but we have 3 of them. We typically will have a boat on Owasco Lake. We'll have one on Cayuga Lake and one on Lake Ontario at the north end of our county.
And any other areas that we haven't covered besides civil division for your office?
No, I think that covers it. We do have some other areas that we don't patrol often, but we do have snowmobiles and ATVs that we will deploy out there
I
occasionally.
went to your website and I was looking for something and I saw that you did have other vehicles.
We do. We don't patrol often with those, but if the need arises, we do utilize those as well.
Speaking of vehicles, you do have a new program, a Yellow Dot program.
We do.
What is that?
The Yellow Dot program, it's actually a partnership that we have with the New York State Sheriff's Association, but it has been around for a while. We have had it at our office for a little while, but I've been taking opportunities like this to promote it and get the information out there. And I actually brought an example with me today, but the Yellow Dot program consists of just what it says. It's a yellow dot, it's a yellow sticker, and if you would like to, anyone in your audience would like to get one of those, you can get those for free at our office or order those online, and I can give you the information here in a
You go out
moment.
to County House Road, pick up the paperwork.
You can, right out at our records windows. If you come in the main lobby of the Public Safety Building on County House Road and ask our clerk at the window for a Yellow Dot card and sticker, she'll give you one
So
for
what
free.
does it do?
So the Yellow Dot sticker, you put the sticker on the rear passenger window of your driver's side of your car. And if you have that sticker on your car and in the event that you are involved in a crash or any issue like that, that yellow sticker will alert EMS providers and police officers that in the glove box is a yellow card, which is this card right here, that you would fill out, and that contains information about your background, who you are, emergency contacts, who your physicians are, if you take any medications or have any
So if
special...
you're an epileptic or you...
Sure.
Okay,
Have diabetes or
okay.
any issues like that, that information is on that card, and that will alert first responders that information is there, so they can go right to the glove box, get that information, and it may save some valuable time to help them diagnose what the medical issue might be or any special needs that you might have.
Any idea how many people have taken advantage of this so far?
I can't. I know it's a statewide program that the New York State Sheriff's Association promotes, so I can't tell you, and I actually don't know how many people in our local area have taken advantage
But
of
you're
it.
promoting it now.
I'm promoting it. I believe that it's important to get these kind of things out there, and moving forward, I'm going to be working on a number of initiatives like this. You can also place this sticker on a front door of your home or near the front door, and that will alert first responders that this information card that you could fill out would actually be in the freezer of your home in a plastic bag. So the information and directions are with it. If you come and pick up a card, it will tell you how to do it, but it's a great program to put that information somewhere where first responders can find it in an emergency.
You mentioned the New York State Sheriff's Association. I know some sheriffs have been very active on some public policy issues of late. One of those has been this issue of legalizing marijuana statewide. Do you have a position?
I do. I did join my fellow sheriffs here a few weeks ago in Albany for a press conference. We basically did hold that press conference to come out and let the community know that we are not in favor of legalizing recreational marijuana. I do take that position myself, and I've taken that position because I'm very concerned about the public safety aspects, how public safety could be affected if recreational marijuana is legalized in New York State.
So do you see it as a gateway drug, or do you see it as something that if somebody's under the influence, it will lead to accidents and other items?
One of my biggest concerns is the number of people that will be operating vehicles under the influence of marijuana. I believe if it is legalized here for recreational use, I don't think that we in law enforcement are prepared to deal with the number of people that will be driving under the influence and the potential crashes and accidents we'll be dealing with because of that. That's just one of the areas that I have great concern with when it comes to this issue.
You think it'd be a greater problem than alcohol?
I think it potentially will be just as bad, and so I have to take that position from a public safety standpoint. I don't see this as making our community safer. My personal beliefs, I do support the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes.
Pain relief, other items like that.
Sure, absolutely, and maybe even there may be some people that are having difficulty getting it that need it for a legitimate medicinal purpose. I'm personally for expanding that if there is a legitimate need for that, but
So what you're saying is regulated.
Regulated use. But I just think that if we open that up to everybody, we're going to see some bad things that are going to happen because of that.
So on the same note, let's continue in that vein. How big an issue is opioids still?
It's still a major issue. We're still seeing a lot of people that are suffering from addiction with that, and along with the addiction comes a number of other crimes that are committed to support those habits.
Robbery, burglary.
Sure, all of those things, larcenies, and it's still a big problem. Knock on wood, this past year we've seen our numbers of overdose deaths start to decline from where they've been the last few years, but we are still seeing those.
Do you still see it as the number one issue for a department like yours?
I believe it is right now.
And is there anything you plan to do differently? You mentioned very early on, you said you were on the HEAL group, which is trying to fight this as well and deal with it both from a law enforcement perspective as well as a societal problem. Is there anything that you would like to see changed?
I believe, and I've taken the position that we need to attack this problem, and we have been 3 ways. And I think the sheriff's office is key to working on these 3 areas. Number 1 is certainly identifying and arresting drug dealers. That's important. We have to do that. We have to get those drug dealers off the street that are peddling their poison. I think it's key that we work on prevention and awareness strategies. We need to educate not only our children but everyone in our community about the hazards of opioid use. And I also believe that prevention strategies are key as well, helping prevent people from becoming addicted in the first place. We have a pill drop box in our lobby. If people have excess pain medication in their medicine cabinets that they're not using,
don't keep it.
Don't keep it. Bring it to our lobby, drop it off. You can do it for free any time of day. APD, the Auburn Police Department, has one too. Drop it off. So that's a prevention strategy. We need to do those kind of things.
And these are drop boxes where you don't identify people.
We do not identify them. They don't have to talk to anyone. They just come in our lobby, drop it off in the box, and leave.
So you must have people who are in lockup who have addiction issues.
We do.
How do you deal with them when they're in there incarcerated, but also as you're trying to discharge them?
This is another key strategy for fighting our drug problem, and that's the strategy of supporting recovery. I fully support recovery efforts in our community, and I think that we can do a lot right from our jail when it comes to recovery. So I'm talking about helping people who are addicted. They're committing minor crimes to support their addiction. They're coming in and out of jail dealing with this addiction. We are going to start taking some different, we are going to utilize some different strategies to help these people find a path to recovery. We are adding a transition coordinator to our jail staff who is going to help line up people who are struggling with addiction with services and things upon discharge that will help them integrate back into society without going back into the use and find that path to support their recovery. I'm very excited about that. We're bringing some new programming to the jail to help people that are struggling with addiction, and we are also partnering with CHAD now. We received some grant money from the state.
Confidential Help for Addiction, downtown Auburn?
Correct. We partnered with them to provide some therapy and treatment for people that are struggling in our jail with the whole goal to help these struggling addicts get back to a life of recovery.
There's been some debate in the county legislature about suing drug manufacturers of opioids. Do you think that's a good idea?
I don't know that it's going to solve our problem locally. Certainly if it brings some funding to our local area,
Cost recovery issue.
that would certainly be positive, so I'm for that if we can get that.
We have the SAFE Act in place now. First of all, do you think the SAFE Act as it is now should be kept the way it is?
I'm not a huge fan of the overall SAFE Act. I think that we've put too much emphasis on trying to take guns away from legal gun owners, that with the emphasis that this is going to solve our problems of mass shootings. I think that we need to look at other areas as well, mental health issues and a lot of things that we should be devoting our efforts to, rather than trying to take these guns away from law-abiding citizens.
Are you worried about the SAFE Act being expanded in New York State?
I am. I think that we have enough gun laws on the books that we don't need any more. I think we need to just work with what we have.
We only have a minute or two left. I want to ask about two specific items. One is there's been a lot of school violence issues over the last 10 years, but specifically recently. Should teachers be allowed to carry guns in schools?
I'm not a strong proponent of that. My concern is the amount of training, because I know, not just anyone should carry a gun, because there's not enough training for somebody necessarily that just carries a gun and maybe just target shoots once in a while.
So at the same time, would you like to have SR school resource officers in all of our rural schools like they do in the city of Auburn?
I would love to see that. I think not only would that provide the benefit of safety for the school, but they build great relationships with the students, and I think it's a positive thing.
Rather have police officers or deputies versus armed security? Do you have a preference on that?
I would rather have trained police officers if budget's allowed, because they've had the training, they know how to shoot under stressful situations, and I think that's key. It's one thing to have somebody carry a gun, it's another thing to know whether or not can they shoot in a stressful situation and handle that gun appropriately when that time comes, if it comes.
I want to finish off with just some general question or two. What do you think the biggest challenge, you're now 55 days in, what do you think your biggest challenge will be?
Time management and delegating. I've had to learn really quickly how to delegate. I've always been one of those leaders that's tried to have my hand in everything. I can't do that anymore. But we've got some incredible, great people that I work with at the Sheriff's Office, not only administratively, but all of our staff. I'm really proud of every one of our divisions and the staff that I work with, so there's no doubt in my mind that I can delegate some of these things and make sure that they get done correctly.
I also I saw one of your PSA, I call it a PSA, but you did something on Spectrum News a couple of weeks ago. It was a snow day. You said criminals stay in, it's not worth it. Do you see that as the role of sheriff? Not the humor of a PSA, but also being a public person in that vein?
I do, and I think it's important for us in law enforcement, not just the sheriff, but all of our staff, to show our human side. So I did put that out.
It was very fun.
I did put that out. I got a lot of compliments on that, but it was humorous, and I think it is important for us to do those kind of things.
You've most likely heard it a dozen times, maybe even this week. You followed a very popular sheriff. Any trepidation about following somebody like David Gould?
I was told numerous times on the campaign trail, if you're elected, you're going to have some very big shoes to fill. I knew that I would, and I still realize that I do. So,
did you have a transition with him?
I did. We worked together the last few months of his time there on our budget and on some issues. But I've been there for 21 years, and
kind of know it.
I did still have to learn, and I'm still learning now, but I was lucky that I did come up through the ranks there and have a basic understanding of how our department works.
So finally, if you had to tell the public, this goes out to people in Cayuga County, what should they know about you as sheriff or about your department?
I think that I would want to tell everyone out there that please feel free to reach out to me if you have an issue, if you have a concern, if whether it would be give us a compliment or maybe you're not happy with the service. But I want to encourage the public to reach out to me. Call me personally at my office, email me. You can find my information online, but I want to be available. I want to be the type of sheriff that is going to listen to concerns and try to help solve problems out there in the community. So reach out to me. Don't be afraid to do that.
Well, we wish you luck. We hope you'll come on a regular basis here at the college to give these public updates.
Absolutely. Thank you, Guy.
But we do want to thank our Cayuga County's new sheriff, Brian Skank, for joining us over the last half hour to talk about not only himself, which we won't do in the future because I know that's not something you were looking forward to, but more about what his department is doing and some of the public policy issues the Cayuga County Sheriff's Department faces. In a moment, we'll be back with Beyond the Front Page with Jenny Haynes and Christina Selvik of the City of Auburn to talk about the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and how that $10 million is going to be spent. We'll be back on Thursday with an Inside Government with Jeff Perazzola, the Superintendent of Schools for the Auburn School District. He'll talk not only about, give us a district update, but also talk about state funding for schools. And we'll also have a Beyond the Front Page show talking about the Auburn Chamber Orchestra as they continue their season here locally. They have a concert on March 2nd, this Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Auburn Alliance Church, and we'll talk about their very fun and very vibrant Pops concert that will be held in a couple of months. We'll be back next Tuesday with Tracy Verrier, the Executive Director of the Cayuga Economic Development Agency, to talk about the work of her agency. We'll also have Justin Woods, the County Administrator, on, and we'll have an update on the new Visitor Center. In the coming weeks, City Manager Jeff Digert will be in the studio to talk about the city, and we'll have the Cayuga Museum's new Executive Director, Kirsten Wise, to talk about her new job as well as what is going on at the museum. Before we go, though, if you would like to send us your ideas for guests or questions, you can contact us at Inside Government, P.O. Box 141, Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York 13021, or you can contact us at cozguytho@aol.com. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. We hope you'll stick around for Beyond the Front Page in just a moment, but otherwise we will see you back here in the studio on Thursday. Have a good night and a great tomorrow.